Sup nerds, in this tutorial we are going to add a calendar agent to the Telegram bot that we have been building in the last couple videos. Specifically this time we are going to get started with the calendar agent template that you can find in N8N right here. It's pretty easy. When you log into your N8N instance, you should see a little panel called templates down here in the toolbar. And if you set that up, I can show you how to designate this as a sub agent for your Telegram bot. But before we get into it, if you are interested in mastering N8N or having me build a custom automation for your business, feel free to hit the link below and book a free one-on-one call with me to discover the possibilities. Now, let's get dangerous. So you can see here, this is our calendar agent. Nothing too crazy. Here's our entire system message. And you might notice it's not actually able to create new events yet. It's just able to get availability and get events that we already have in our calendar. We'll change that in future episodes. Right now, I'm focusing on what we have to do to this up as a sub agent to your Telegram bot. Now, you can do this as its own workflow if you want. I always like having things in the same workspace, so we are going to hit copy on this, and look at that. Our clipboard history now has the JSON code that determines all of these nodes. And now I am going to go back to personal, and Aviva is our Telegram bot. Now I'm going to zoom out just a little bit and paste. And there we go. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And just for fun, I'm going to add these sticky notes here. They're kind of fun on your bigger workflows, and they're pretty easy to set up. It's just double click and type in them. And they are in markdown format, by the way, so you can use, for example, hashtags to designate headers, asterisks to bold, things like that. Director agent is just what we're going to call this one. And let's just change the color on it. Why not? I like green. And then for this calendar agent down here, you can see we can just add another sticky note. Okay. And then we'll double click it and say calendar agent. Perfect. And now what we are going to do, now there's a call N8N workflow tool that you can use here, but honestly that works best when your sub workflows are in another workspace, which of course this is not. So we're actually going to use an HTTP request, since that can activate other workflows in this space. Now let's see, we are going to add a webhook trigger to this. Whoops, add a node, webhook trigger. And we're actually going to make this a post one, since it's going to actually have to respond, send information. We're going to go ahead and use the production URL here. And in the HTTP request tool, we want to make sure that URL is there, authentication none, and we're going to send a body using JSON. Actually, we're going to do it using the fields below, and we'll just let the model define the parameter. That way, it doesn't have to rely on a specific structure of the query from the user. And you can see here, we're going to require a response, and we're just going to use auto detect. Good. Now there's one more thing we need to add here, and it is a web hook response. Respond with first incoming item. Let's do all incoming items just in case. Okay. Awesome. So we're going to hit save. And since it's already active, I'm just going to open Telegram. Let's go to our chat with Aviva here. What's my availability like tomorrow? Now we should see, interesting. Let's take a look at what happened in N8N. Interesting. It reported success. Oh, I see. It didn't even try calling the API. So what we want to do is add a little bit in the system prompt. Please use the current time and date. In fact, we'll call this calendar sub agent. Perfect. Let's save. And then add a bit in the system prompt. Call when the user asks about their calendar. Pretty simple, but it does go to show you the importance of the system prompt and specifically its ability to tell them what tools they have. So let's try another test. What's my availability tomorrow? Seems there was an issue. Okay, well, it's at least trying. Or maybe it wasn't because it reported a success. Now, why is that? When there was an error, calling the resource you're requesting could not be found. Okay, let's open a new chat. In fact, let's also send it a screenshot of our larger workflow just so it gets an idea of the bigger picture. It sounds like we're going to get generic advice that doesn't actually help. If you guys ever get stuck in this problem with whatever AI assistant you use while you're building these sorts of things, 99% of the time it will help just to either propose a solution and see how it reacts to that proposition, or to find new information that could give it clarity on what the problem actually is. Hit a URL method that N8N doesn't have a webhook registered for. Oh, I bet I know what it is. I bet I had, yep, look at that. I had this set to get when it was actually listening for a post event. Auto detect. Okay, good. Good. Let's hit save on this and give it another quick test. What's my availability tomorrow? Still having issues. Oh, and it reported an error this time. This is interesting. Webhook node not correctly configured. Okay, so the call was made and it just wasn't configured to receive it correctly. Actually, no, it'll get all that info from the screenshot. Okay, I figured out what that problem was, and once I changed it, the error changed. Specifically, we are now looking at a call that is successfully made, but a trigger that isn't set up right to receive the call. This is specifically made from a director AI agent to a calendar AI agent. And the director agent making the call actually sends whatever it thinks is necessary in the request body. So I think I should be setting up this trigger to accept all incoming data or something of that nature. Can you see anything else in the triggers configuration that might be wrong? Okay, that's another really good way to get quality information from your AI coding assistants is knowing how to ask the right questions. If you just ask, why did this happen? You're never gonna get a good answer from that, almost never. You should be asking higher quality questions. Could this be the problem? Would this be a good solution to whatever is happening right now? Those kinds of questions are really what is gonna get the ball rolling. Okay, let's look at what it says here. The director to API tool is sending a body shaped like a parameters array. Yep, the webhook trigger outputs whatever it receives under JSON body. Okay, keep the webhook. Yep, method post, respond using respond to webhook node, save toggle active off and on once to re-register, normalize the incoming body right after the webhook. We don't need to normalize the body after the webhook. The error is in the webhook. So if we don't fix that, let's go into the editor and see what our options are. Allow multiple methods, always output data, execute once, retry on fail, response code, response headers. What about raw body? If we flip that on, would that change it? Okay, let's give this another test. What's my availability tomorrow? We're still getting the same error. Actually, no, it'll see. Executions. Sure enough, we have an error. I tried flipping on the raw body switch in the webhook trigger just to see if it would do anything, and it still failed. In fact, we appeared to have gotten exactly the same error as the last time. So I've looked at all the other options that we can use to force this webhook to accept all incoming data, but I'm not really sure how we're actually going to be able to do that, or if we can't force it to accept all incoming data, otherwise have it overcome this error. So then the workflow subagent for the calendar can be called successfully. How would we go about doing that? I mean, in theory, this should be pretty simple, right? Like we didn't set up any authentication, and we're not even finagling around with a specific request body. We're letting the AI agent decide what it is. AWS, that's Amazon Web Services. What are they doing here? SDK credential provider. Config mismatch, not a payload issue. The webhook node shows respond immediately. We also have a respond to webhook node at the end of the calendar flow. That's the problem. Okay, set respond to using respond to webhook node. Okay, I see. Let's have a look at that then. Yep. Using respond to the webhook node. Let's hit save. Good. Let's test it one more time. Hey Aviva, when's my availability tomorrow? Simple memory 1. No session ID found. Oh, we don't even need simple memory on this one because it just responds to single queries. The data is getting passed to the agent. That is pretty exciting. What the crap, data? I didn't expect it to pass binary data though. Should we be worried about that? We'll find out in just a second though. What's my availability tomorrow? Okay, more errors. This will be a pretty normal part of, I wonder if just turning off the raw body will make it send text data rather than whatever it is it's doing right now. All right, save, and let's hit it again. What's my availability tomorrow? Continued issues, huh? Well, let's have a look. Calendar age, no prompt specified. That's an easy fix. Just specify the prompt. Now, what is date? Yep, this is going to be a pretty simple task. We don't need the thinking model. And we just want to say, can you write the expression that will refer to the date object nested under the body object? Yeah, json.body.date is what we want to use, and in the edit, we want to define below, and bam, save. Let's see what that does as soon as it's done saving. Perfect. What's my availability tomorrow? Still an issue with accessing your calendar. Okay. Oh, look at that. The json.body.date didn't actually come through because of, look at this, calendar date time. So we actually want it to send. We want to go back to the canvas, back to editor, and we want the field to always be named date. Okay. Let's save it. What's my availability tomorrow? Issue retrieving your event. Okay. What was it this time? Okay. It says it probably just didn't receive the prompt again. Date, calendar not being set up or accessible. If you have another date or specific details you'd like to check, please let me know. Oh, both of its tools failed. I wonder, well, one thing that is very encouraging, look at this. It seems there was an issue retrieving our events and availability. It seems there was an issue retrieving events and availability. This is exactly the same message, which means the sub-agent's message is being returned to us directly. It's not being passed back through the director agent first, which I really like. Okay, it looks like everything worked correctly this time, except for both of the Google Calendar tools. They both seem to be giving me the same message, which honestly doesn't surprise me. When I authenticated, it only asked me to sign into my Google account and not to actually give it any OAuth client IDs or secrets or anything like that. So should I go into a Google Cloud project and enable a specific API and set up those credentials, or how do I do this? Oh, I forgot to enable thinking. Oh well, I prefer the thinking model, honestly. I mean, the base model's all right, especially for creative tasks, which is when hallucinations are actually a good thing, as long as, it's following specified guidelines. A not found you're seeing from both events. Google Cloud Project Calendar API. Okay. I don't actually know if it's going to let me do anything in terms of oh, wait a second. That's interesting. Here's the screen when I go to set up credentials in one of these Google Notes, and you'll notice it's not asking me for a client ID or secret. How do I give it one? Okay, I'm gonna go to, all right, I'm in Google Cloud Console, and I'm going to APIs and Services Library, and what I'm looking for is the Calendar API. Yep, enable, perfect. Now, in this case, these are the DIA credentials I use for my YouTube tutorials. That stands for Do It All. So usually you would need to create a consent screen. I already did that. Calendar client, authorized redirect URLs. Let's add one of those. Let's take a look at this. Google Calendar. And then we're going to give it NADEN's official direct URL. This is what it's going to use for any service. We'll copy the client ID, NADEN credentials, Google Calendar. So we're actually going to want to go back to our workspace, and we are actually going to want to, first of all, we're going to want to delete these credentials, the YouTube tutorial calendar ones, because those do not work. Create credential. And this is specifically for the Google Calendar OAuth 2 API. I don't see where to paste in the client ID and client secret. When I go to credentials Google Calendar like you instructed, it only sends me directly to this page to sign in with Google. It doesn't let me give it anything of the sort of client ID and client secret. How do I make sure that it has that? Okay, and before we send it, we're going to enable extended thinking just so it can be absolutely sure it has the right answer. You're on the connection tab. That one only shows sign in with Google. ID and secret fields live under details. Do they? I don't see anything under details. Yep, what you're seeing is NADEN's managed Google Calendar credential. That one only shows sign in with Google and hides client ID and secret. To use your own OAuth, create a different credential and select it in your nodes. Credentials new. Let's go ahead and close it. Create credential Google OAuth 2 API. Good. Calendar. We'll just call it calendar for now. Let's see here. Okay. I got this authorization blocked error when trying to sign in with Google. Is my consent screen misconfigured or something? In fact, while it's thinking about that, I'm going to go ahead and check my consent screen. I am an admin here. OAuth consent. Nothing here looks wrong. Settings, perhaps? Verification status, data access. Oh, that's where I edit my scope. The details page is static again. Should I make a new one and ensure that it has the correct scopes enabled? Fill these exactly. Okay, let's go ahead and delete this one then. And we're gonna create a credential. Google OAuth 2. Actually, I'm gonna ask the assistant. NADEN has a built-in AI assistant. I don't use it a lot because, you can only put in text, and also it can't see your workflow, so it's quite limited in what it can do, but it's good at helping setting up your client. Okay, I'm trying to authenticate Google Calendar Tools nodes for an AI agent. I've got the client ID and client secret for a Google Cloud project with the Google Calendar API enabled. What's the next step? And let's see what it does. All right, great. You already have Here's what you need to do next. Go to NADEN and open the credentials section. Yep, create new ones. It is for Google Calendar OAuth 2 API. Then how do we get past NADEN's built-in thing? But if I do it in a Google Calendar OAuth 2 API, it'll hide the client ID and client secret, rather assuming built-in ones that has. ChatGPT suggested working around this by having a Google OAuth 2 API, and that works by having the right, letting me put in a client ID and secret, but I think it needs to have the right scopes enabled, and I haven't figured out which ones. Should I continue this alternative or set up? Go back to setting up Google Calendar API. Moment of truth, guys. Moment of truth. Search in the docs. When you use the built-in Google Calendar OAuth 2, yep. If you want to use your own GCP, yes, for Google Calendar. There's the scopes we need. There they are, guys. Yes. Okay, close. Create credential, Google OAuth 2 API, ID, secret, and scopes. Okay, and there we go. We can actually sign in, guys. We want to allow it. Perfect. Calendar custom. We'll just call it that. And in fact, I'm also going to make sure that it can add or remove scopes. /auth/calendar. Perfect. Now we're gonna go back in here. Okay, perfect. Wait now. Never mind, because it will only take a Google Calendar OAuth 2 API. We don't want that. We need here. Let's collect evidence. These Google Calendar tools nodes require a Google OAuth 2 Calendar API specifically in order to authenticate them, but the one that we have just set up successfully was the Google OAuth 2 API, the custom one. So how do we connect the two? It's possible to use both types in N8N. To connect them simply, interesting. You got two ways to hook up the calendar tools to your own OAuth app. Credentials new. Can we do that? Let's create a new credential. Google Calendar. Yeah. Is it gonna? I didn't think it would let us override defaults. Let's see if it's docs say anything about override. Yeah, I didn't think so. I don't see anything in the editor or in the docs about overriding defaults or using my own OAuth client. So what are our options here? Some N8N builds hide the use your own OAuth client toggle in the Google Calendar 2 API model. You've got three solid paths. Show all credential types or show incompatible credentials. I don't see any way to show all credential types or to show incompatible credentials. Is there actually a way to do this in N8N? Oh, this is a good idea, actually. Keep your working Google OAuth 2 API credential and use just HTTP request nodes. That's not a bad idea. Short answer, in your N8N cloud, those calendar tools don't offer show incompatible credentials. Is locked to one type so you can attach. Yep. There's no way for us to do that. I think we're just gonna call it with custom HTTP request nodes. Let's list events. HTTP events. Yep. Authentication. OAuth. Google OAuth 2, and we want to use our calendar custom and query parameters. We want single events to be true. We want order by to be start time. We want time min to be JSON.after. Time max to be availability, free and busy. Oh, that's everything in this get events node. Okay, that's fine. Let's just have this one for now and see how that works. So save and let's give it a test. What events do I have going on tomorrow? There are no scheduled events on your calendar. What did we get? It succeeded. Okay, did it actually call the tool? It called the tool, folks. The tool was successful. And that is how you call a sub-agent, folks. Well, I guess that ends our tutorial here. Thank you so much for watching. And with that, be sure to leave a like, share your thoughts with the class, and before you subscribe, make sure you know what you're doing, because it ain't easy being at the top. See you guys next time.